Lesson 8 for February 15 to 21, From the Stormy Sea to the Clouds of Heaven, read by Dr. Percy Harrold. Tuesday, February 18, The Court was seated. After the vision of the four animals and the activities of the little horn, the prophet sees a scene of judgment in heaven, described in Daniel 7, verses 9 and 10. I watched till thrones were put in place, and the Ancient of Days was seated. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was a fiery flame, its wheels a burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. 1,000 thousands ministered to him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the books were opened. And verses 13 and 14, I was watching in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. He came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Then to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom the one which shall not be destroyed. As the court convenes, thrones are put in place, and the Ancient of Days takes his seat. As the heavenly scene shows, thousands and thousands of heavenly beings minister before the Ancient of Days. The court is seated, and the books are opened. What's important to note about this judgment is that it occurs after the 1,260-year period of the little horn's activity. That's AD 538 to 1798, and we'll look at that in Friday's study. But prior to the establishment of God's final kingdom, in fact, 3 times in the vision, the following sequence appears. Little horn phase, 538 to 1798, heavenly judgment, God's eternal kingdom. Question. Read Daniel 7, verses 13 and 14, 21 and 22, and 26 and 27. In what ways does the judgment benefit God's people? Daniel 7, verses 13 and 14. I was watching in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. He came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Then to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom the one which shall not be destroyed. In verses 21 and 22, I was watching, and the same horn was making war against the saints and prevailing against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and a judgment was made in favour of the saints of the Most High. And the time came for the saints to possess the kingdom. In verses 26 and 27, but the court shall be seated, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and destroy it forever. Then the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people, the saints of the Most High. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. The Old Testament describes several acts of judgment from the tabernacle and temple, but the judgment referred to here is different. This is a cosmic judgment that affects not only the little horn, but also the saints of the Most High, who will eventually receive the kingdom. Daniel 7 does not describe the judgment or give details about its beginning and closing, but it implies that the judgment is undertaken in the wake of the little horn's attack against God and his people. The point here, then, is to emphasize the beginning of a judgment of cosmic proportions. From Daniel chapter 8 and 9, and we'll see that in the following weeks, we will learn about the time of judgment's beginning and the fact that this judgment is related to the purification of the heavenly sanctuary on the heavenly Day of Atonement. The lesson here is that we clearly will have a pre-Advent judgment in heaven that will be in favour of God's people, as we read in verse 22 of Daniel chapter 7. So to finish the day, why is an understanding of what Jesus accomplished for us at the cross so central to why we can have assurance in the day of judgment? What hope would we have, or even could we have, without the cross. Romans chapter 8, verse 1. There is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind and Hearing Impaired, Christian Record Services for the Blind, the Sabbath School Department, and Hope Channel. You can also listen on the official Sabbath School 4 app and the Apple iTunes app, Sabbath School with Percy Harrold. Remember, God is always faithful.